going, everybody? Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We have a lot to dig into today. There was a truly unifying moment that happened yesterday with Bubba Wallace and his fellow race car drivers. We're also talking about a Yanis theory. But before we do all that, make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment below. And now here is the Fumble Squad, you guys. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Chris.
It's your boy Chris. You can find me everywhere at CK2K.
What's up, everybody? It's Jackie Ray. You can find me on all social media at JRay the Fanatic.
Hey guys, it's your girl Brit. You can follow me on all social media at I am Brit Johnson.
All right, you guys, well, we're going to jump right into the news today because like we told you yesterday, if you tuned in, we're doing this really cool campaign with Equal Justice Initiative. Chris is going to fill you in a little bit on that and share a story with you before we get into the post-up. But because of that, we're just going to jump straight into the news. So let's talk about Bubba Wallace. So Bubba Wallace got the support of people everywhere after a noose was found in his garage. It was a horrible act of racism, but fans rallied around him on social media, and his fellow drivers showed an incredible moment of solidarity with him. They pushed his car around the track, and that caused him to become overwhelmed with emotion. You can see him at the end of, when they were done pushing him, he gets out of his car and leans his head on the roof, and he's crying, and it's really emotional and quite touching. He also gave a meaningful speech and directly addressed whoever committed the heinous act. Leo, if you can pull that clip up for us, I'd like to show it to everybody.
In the NASCAR Cup garage area, a secure area where access is limited to competitors, officials, and track staff. A despicable act by someone flying directly in the face of NASCAR's efforts to build a culture that is diverse.
So that was that moment that he was overcome with emotion and he started crying. But in the speech that he gave afterwards when he was talking with the reporter, he said that you won't break me, you won't tear my smile down, I'm going to keep pushing for what I believe in, I'm going to keep fighting. So that was his direct message to the person who committed this horrendous racist act. The NASCAR president, Steve Phelps, also had something to say about the people who claim that the noose was planted. A lot of people were online comparing what happened with Bubba with that whole Jussie Smollett deal that happened a little while back. Absolutely terrible. Steve had a conference call with reporters to address these claims and said, quote, "I can't speak for those on social media who would say this is a staged event. I would say that is something that personally offends me. This is a terrible, terrible act that has happened. For those who would think this is staged, I don't even know where to go with that, frankly." NASCAR said that it is angry and outraged over what they call the heinous act. They opened an investigation to identify who is responsible, and their plan is to completely eliminate that person from the sport. They said, quote, "They will be banned from this sport for life. There is no room for this at all. We won't tolerate it. They won't be here. I don't care who they are. They will not be here." So I'm glad that they're taking such a strong stance. Of course, we have to see what action follows these statements. Chris, I want to go to you for my first question. Yesterday, I asked you if you think NASCAR truly would take disciplinary action and eliminate the person who committed this racist act. And you said you weren't entirely sure how you felt this would all play out in the future. So does hearing this from Steve Phelps change your mind at all, or have you feel a little bit more optimistic that they will react appropriately?
Oh, I wasn't saying it towards that. You were asking if I felt like if somebody would have said something if they had known something. And I still agree. I don't think that they would. But no, as far as the NASCAR, no, I seeing that message that really when we saw that yesterday, and then again with what you're talking about right now, no, that definitely gives me hope that they're going to try everything in their power, and hopefully they do find out who it was. I just think that because it's believed to be an inside job, if someone does know something, I just don't believe that they will say something. That was what I was saying for yesterday. But yeah, no, I do believe that they will 100% do everything they can to try and find out who it is.
Brit, I'd love to hear your reaction to that moment of solidarity between Bubba and the other drivers. There's obviously strength in numbers when we're tackling these kinds of issues. So does this make you feel even more hopeful for change in the NASCAR world?
Well, obviously, this kind of brought me back to 2 weeks ago when I had the embarrassing moment of crying on the fumble when I was talking about Bubba Wallace and how he was basically alone in NASCAR. You know, he's the only African American driver and stuff. So to see this moment, it was super beautiful. Like, obviously, tearing up again. It was so dope to watch it. But the one thing I will say is because everyone is saying it has to be an inside job. Obviously, it's probably not another driver because the drivers aren't even allowed in that area.
Right.
But if we find out that the person who actually did this was walking alongside a car or doing something in that thing, I will be so upset because obviously there were some people that weren't walking with him. But it's always the one that did some shit that's like trying to act like your best friend and doing the most and like, oh yes, whatever, let's support, let's whatever. So I'd be very interested to see when we do, because I do believe we're going to find out who did this. And when they said they have cameras and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure they're working very diligently with the FBI and everybody to try to figure this out. So when we do, if we end up finding out that he was one of the guys walking, it's going to be like another moment that's just going to get me. That's going to be very upsetting for me to see.
Yeah, I think that would be upsetting for everybody to see because, you know, that fake show of solidarity or sympathy or whatever it is, if you really want to do that.
We talk about it all the time. There's a lot of fake people out here trying to act like they care, so.
Yeah, it's really awful. So Jackie, I'd like to go to you on this last question. What would you say to the people who are spreading this rumor online that the noose was actually planted there?
It's not impossible. I mean, let's just be honest for like 2 seconds. It's not impossible. Do I think that Bubba Wallace would do it himself? Absolutely not. I think that's preposterous. But I mean, when you think about the climate that we're in, could somebody on their team be trying to milk this situation for all it's worth? It's not impossible. That would be, you know, I'm definitely with Brit. I didn't get as emotional as you guys did seeing that because I was like, he needs to have his head on a swivel because somebody in there, it does not have his best interest at heart. You know what I mean? And I said that he needed a security detail. I would not be hurt if I found out it was somebody in that, you know, little show of solidarity. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I would be surprised and I would be devastated for Bubba if I find out that it's someone in his camp because those are supposed to be the people that have your back and that are there for you. And if they're trying to kind of manipulate this situation to milk this social movement that we have right now, that would be horrifying. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility. It is for me to say that Bubba did it, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility to think that someone in his camp is just trying to milk this situation.
Gosh, I didn't even think of that. For me, it's like so hard to wrap my mind around somebody in his own camp doing something like that, but stranger things have happened. All I know is that when I was watching that moment when they were pushing his car around the track and when he was greeting fans in the stands, I felt touched and I felt like overwhelmed with emotion too. It was really touching for me. Let's move on into the next news story. Washington linebacker Ryan Anderson made a comment about playing football that some feel is a little bit inappropriate. Former tight end Garrett Hudson shared a story about a conversation that he had with Ryan. The two played together back in 2018, and the linebacker would hit him often during practice. Garrett said, quote, "Of the people that were on the team when I was there in 2018, I don't think anybody hits harder than Ryan Anderson. I've heard him call himself the Billy Goat, the Bulldog, and the Ram, and he would frequently yell those things at me after he would spear me in the chest." He went on to say, quote, "I remember a conversation in the hot tub after practice, and I was like, dude, why are you going so hard all the time?" And this is a quote, this is verbatim. He said, "If I can remember my grandkids' names, then I didn't play the game right." So he's a lunatic. He has the mentality to play the inside linebacker position. It's a little scary to think that his end goal is to suffer from such serious brain damage that he can't remember his grandkids' names. But people responded to this, tweeting things like, "Big yikes, this is really harmful to men, so you can only be a tough guy, a manly man, if you get brain damage." Another person tweeted, there were a lot of people that tweeted this kind of thing, "LMFAO, what?" And then another person tweeted, "This will age poorly." So there's a lot to digest here. Brit, is this comment out of touch? Do you think he truly means it, or was he just trying to seem kind of macho in that situation?
That this is football. Like, honestly, like, I think now we've tried to, like, oh, let's take a step back. We don't really want to hurt people, or we don't want to do that. But these guys have been playing since they were kids. That's what they were taught as kids. You hit somebody, you knock them out. And their coaches played back in the day. Like, if you go to all these, like, Pop Warner and these high school coaches and stuff, that's why you're still seeing so much CTE in younger people, because they still teach them to hit like that. They still tell them to play like that. It's only at the college level and at the NFL level where you actually have coaches who are properly teaching these guys how to hit. But the younger kids are still learning it this way, and they still have the same mentality. I know more than a handful of guys that would say, I would rather die on the football field. Like, I would be okay with that, because that's just the mentality they have growing up, and that's just football. That's why even yesterday with that UFC guy, he just think that's just not the business he should be in, you know. And really, football is just recently starting to change to where they're trying to protect the players more and do this, that, and the third. So you can't expect somebody's mentality to change that they grew up with playing football their whole entire life. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, once he does get older, he's going to be really upset when he has CTE or something like that prevents him from just living a normal life, because we've seen tons of athletes go through this, and they all have issues and whatever the case is, but that's part of playing football, unfortunately, you know. And I just think that most of them kind of really do feel like that, or they would get into another field. They would play in another sport or do another job or something like that. Like, that's part of football, and you've got to understand that you're most likely not going to be able to know who you are, and when you're in your 50s, you probably won't be able to run. You know, Deion Sanders is always going around his house in his little go-kart thingy, because his legs and his feet are so messed up, he can't walk very long, you know. Like, that's just, unfortunately, it's football. So you don't like it, play a different sport.
Yeah, I mean, it is a contact sport. I guess if they want to do something no contact, play golf, maybe tennis, that might be the better option. Jackie, yeah, exactly. I want to go to you for my next question. A lot of people online were saying that this kind of mentality not only poses a threat to himself, but also his teammates. Like, there seemed to be this general idea online that he was taking the aggression in football to the next level. So how seriously do you feel we should take these comments, and how do you feel about them in general?
I think the people making those comments are soft. I mean, it's just to be blunt. This isn't, you know, I've always said that sports like, you know, UFC, boxing, football, they are created because there are people in our society who have high levels of aggression, and they need to be able to get it out. If I was a coach and I heard him say that, I'm like, damn right, you know what I mean? Because that's how he's supposed to feel. I know that they said that he, you know, did a couple of dirty hits, but he old school tackles. He's heading for you at full speed, and he lowers his head. He's old school with how he tackles. And I know I don't mean to giggle it off, but I actually love watching him. If I was a coach, I would love to have him on my team. And I think people who are saying that, I mean, yeah, I get it. You know, you don't want people to be hurt. But I have friends that play football, and sometimes we'll talk about Junior Seau, and I'll be like, is this how you guys want to end up? If this is how you want to end up, and they all say the same thing, yeah, but. You know, they all look at his life before, and they all think it's worth it. It's a mentality that maybe you and I can't understand, but it is a mentality, and it seems to be across the board with at least everyone I know. So I think the people that are making these comments just don't understand the nature of these people. They don't understand the nature of the game, and they're a little bit soft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to be crazy to play football. You have like a couple things, like you just
especially as a linebacker.
So, yeah. Why are we surprised?
You got to be crazy to give the hit and willingly take the hit. Who willingly takes a hit like that? A little off.
Yeah, I would never survive in a football game, but I guess pretty obvious. Okay, let's move into this final news story. So the secret to hiring Yanis, or not hiring Yanis, but signing Yanis, is apparently hiring Jason Kidd. So there's a rumor circulating that whoever hires Jason will have an inside track to landing Yanis when he hits free agency. So Chris, you may like this news. The Knicks reportedly received permission from the Angeles to interview Jason for their head coaching position. He's currently an assistant with the team. So Yanis played for Jason when he was the head coach in Milwaukee from 2014 to 2015 until he was fired in 2018. And back in 2018, Yanis talked about Jason and said, quote, "He's a big part of my success in the league. I'm loyal to the people I work with. I love him as a person." A lot of people believe that he really couldn't lead the team to victories. They were underachieving with him at the helm, so it seems surprising that the reigning MVP would abandon something that's clearly working with the Bucks to follow a fired former coach to the Knicks. But I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Chris, so Mike Miller's long-term status with the Knicks hangs in the balance, and there's a long list of potential coaching candidates. Do you think that the Knicks would hire Jason over Tom Thibodeau? And if so, would that bring Yanis over to New York? Or is this just another Knicks theory that you're upset by?
I just want to say, yeah, to me, this is 100% a manufactured theory. This is not coming from any Knicks fan, and it's going to be turned into oh, here goes Knicks fans again. They're expecting Giannis. I'm going to tell you right now, Kevin Durant, that was it. I'm done dreaming and hoping for players. But as far as the strategy, I mean, that's a common thing. This has been going on especially in the NBA for forever. I mean, we can go as not too far back as Nick Nurse. The main reason why they brought in Nick Nurse after firing the defending coach of the year in Dwayne Casey was because Nick Nurse is a more offensive-minded coach. When they got Kawhi Leonard, they were hoping that, having a guy that's going to be making sure that the game is run through Kawhi, that would entice him to come and stay for the team. This is a common situation within the NBA. I mean, from, people bringing in ex-players to coach their teams because of this, and maybe you'll make other players. It's a common thing. So for this, for the Knicks to do this, I mean, it's probably in Leon Rose's mind, the new president of the Knicks. There's also one of the guys on that long list of coaches is, what's his name, is Jamal Mosley from the Mavericks, who was a coach that nobody's probably heard of. But the thing is, he is Luka Doncic's favorite coach. He's the guy he works out with. He's the guy he shoots out with. He's the guy who he is with at least 80% of the day. So the Knicks are thinking, if we get that guy, then Luka's coming to Knicks. So, I think that there's definitely something. I mean, that's what I'm saying. More times than not, it's not a situation that ends up working. So for me, I just want to make sure we get the guy that is going to be about making sure that our younger players develop into good players. I'm not about this win now stuff. We need to commit to sucking and just let the players develop. We're not doing this. That's the thing. That's the problem. We have not. That's the reason why we're so bad, because we refuse to commit to sucking. We keep thinking maybe this year. Then we go and throw money at Julius Randle. So no, we need to commit to having our younger players and let them grow and hopefully go through that way, a la the Golden State Warriors. So the Jason Kidd thing, I think that it's an idea. I do think that is probably the thought process, but I don't think that it's going to result in Giannis Antetokounmpo. If I don't think he's going to the Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, I damn sure know he ain't coming to my Knicks with none of those names I just said. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think it'll make a difference.
All right. Well, you touched on something that leads me into my question for Jackie. Obviously, we've seen this happen in the past where a team tries to hire a coach in order to lure a player over, and it is far from a foolproof method. But if Giannis is motivated to follow Jason, could you see him moving to New York, or do you think he's staying put in Milwaukee no matter what?
I hate that I have to entertain this in any way, shape, form, or fashion. This is such a ridiculous rumor to me. But let me pull something out of my, I think that no, I think that when he said, I'm loyal to people who are good to me, I'm loyal to people who are good to me. But does that mean if they move across the country that I'm going with them? No, I'm gonna have to support you from afar. He's not going to New York. I think this is preposterous. I think that. I just put in the chat that if we're circulating rumors, I want to circulate one. Yanis is going to be on the Fumble next week. Circulate that. Let's see how much traction that gets. And then if he's on the Fumble, then I'll co-sign on these Jason Kidd rumors. How about that?
Right. And then speaking of loyal, don't you think he'd be the most loyal to his own family and his brothers that are currently playing with him with the Bucks? He's not going to ditch his family.
He's just going to take the whole family?
That he worked with for 3 years.
Right. And I think that, like you were saying, Chris, the Warriors theory is more plausible to me than the Knicks theory. Unfortunately, I know it'd probably be exciting to have him over in New York, but I just don't see it happening.
I'm not even thinking about it. Nope. Not even entertaining it. Nope.
So, Britt, I guess I already know where you stand, but my question for you that I had written out was, do you think that Yanis really is that loyal to Jason Kidd, or is this just another Knicks conspiracy theory that won't ever pan out?
Oh, I mean, I guess I already answered. He could be a little loyal, but he's more loyal to his family, and his brothers are already on the team with them. So I think that that's where he's going to stay. He moved his whole entire family out to Milwaukee, and I don't think he's just going to uproot everybody to go to New York and possibly see what could happen for like a couple seasons. I just don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it looks like we're all in agreement on that one, and that wraps up Need to Know News. So, Chris, take it away.
Yes, guys, it is time for the post up with your boy Chris, quarantine edition. Yes. I just want to quickly say about that thing. Jason Kidd, you can come and coach. Like, I don't mind it. Like, last time you was in the league, you played for the Knicks, and you were the reason why we were the number 3 seed. So, I mean, I'll take you for that reason. For the honest stuff, I'm not buying any of that. But anyways, that's my Knicks take on that. But we're going to jump into post up because we got some things to talk about here on the post up. Starting off with Bubba. We were talking about Bubba earlier, and the fact that he had the other racers, or the majority of the other racers, join him and walk his car before the race, and when you're meeting fans, give him a round of applause. It was a cool moment. It was a really dope moment. But this, to me, I feel like I like this moment a little bit better. There's this picture that came out that was shared online, and the caption said, somebody make this, paint this for me. And as you can see, it's Bubba with a crowd of black fans at a NASCAR event. So in an attempt to shift the culture for a sport that is predominantly white, is pretty cool. And to see a image like this, I'm a fan of it. So shout out to Bubba for that. I love this moment right here. But yeah, speaking of Bubba, we have Steph Curry. We talked about LeBron, who spoke on Bubba yesterday, but Steph Curry also did. I'm sorry, LeBron spoke on it the day before, but Steph Curry spoke on it yesterday, and he posted this picture of Bubba Wallace. I can't keep saying Bubba Watson. Bubba Wallace with the caption that said, "This was real. Never met you, Bubba Wallace, but feel like the world knows exactly who you are and why you're about, and what you're about after today. Stare hate and bigotry right in the face and spread love and hope. Now let's find out who left that noose in the garage. And while we're at it, arrest the cops who shot #Breonna Taylor." Shout out to everything that Steph Curry said on that. And yes, huge moment for Bubba Wallace. I'm saying, right? Yeah. Right on cue, right? Okay.
We planned that.
Yeah. You like that? But yeah, no, so shout out to Steph Curry for that one. But staying in the same vein, we also talked about LeBron James starting up the more than a vote. I would say group movement where he has other athletes, NFL and NBA athletes that are joining his movement to help educate the youth on the power of voting, as well as educate them on the people that they would be voting for, and give the options that they have to vote for. And I think it's going to be a whole great movement. And we were talking about it here. I know I was saying I wanted to see more NFL players join in, and I feel like after yesterday, definitely there's going to be some of this follows. I mean, there's already players that are on it. I'm not saying there's none. I just want to see more because it was a predominantly NBA list, obviously, because it's LeBron James. But to see, what happened yesterday, I feel like this is going to be, a trickling effect because Patrick Mahomes is joining the movement. LeBron James tweeted out to congratulate and welcome in Patrick Mahomes for this more than the vote movement. And Patrick Mahomes responded to LeBron's tweet by saying, "Change isn't made by watching from the sidelines. Let's do this, King James. #more than a vote." So that's dope. That's dope. I mean, go from the top. This is the defending not finals MVP. Oh my goodness, basketball hurry up and come back. Defending Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champ. To have him in there, I'm sure that this is just gonna end up growing to be as big as it needs to be to, like I said, help educate people who are not accustomed to voting when they should be voting, especially in a very big election year like we have this year. So that's dope. I really love that. So shout out to Patrick Mahomes and shout out to the More Than a Vote movement. On to this next one, Kevin Love. Now, Kevin Love makes a very, very big donation on something that he cares a lot about, because it is something that he is affected by and is very open to speaking out for others who are not as comfortable to speak out on it. And it has to do with, anxiety, depression, and, mental health issues. And Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan too were two of the, I wouldn't say pioneers, but two of the more vocal players in sports to talk on something that's very sensitive for a lot of players who probably, feel like, if they say something, they feel like they're weak and stuff like that. And Kevin Love and, DeMar have been saying, like, no, like, don't feel like that. You need to talk it out, because that's how, you get through, I would say, like, mentally crippling issues. And Kevin Love yesterday donated $500,000 to anxiety and depression research to his alma mater, UCLA. So I love that, because this is just something, it's across the board. Like, in sports is one thing, because they're supposed to, like we were just talking about, they're supposed to keep this image that they're this big, tough guy, nothing phases them. But it's just, all around the world in general, it's something that is becoming more talked about, and it should be more talked about, because it is a serious issue. I have family members that do suffer from the same thing, and to have them talk out about it now compared to knowing who they were, where they're not very vocal on situations like that. I respect this and I appreciate this from Kevin Love. So shout out to Kevin Love for that. That's a really big move. I have some Cowboys news that's actually not a troll or not anything negative, Brit. So this is actually hilarious. I saw this and it was pretty funny. First of all, I didn't even know Zeke was streaming. So starting off with Zeke Elliott, I didn't know he was streaming. I mean, obviously every athlete that was going through this quarantine have been playing, whether they've been playing 2K, Madden, or Call of Duty. One of the three, and they've been live streaming it. And I guess Zeke's been streaming. Didn't know it, and he's been streaming it. But in his last stream, he was playing Call of Duty, and you can't see in his little bubble. Can we get the next picture up? He got his whole helmet on. I don't know what the strategy is with this. I don't know if he needs the visor because you're trying to cut down on the rays from the computer screen or whatever. I love it. I'm all for it. Apparently he was doing well in those matches with the helmet on, so I guess whatever works. I know that I don't know if it's all helmets, but I know for sure the quarterback helmets have headphones in them, or they have the mics to talk to their coaches with. So maybe this has that. So he's like talking with his boys on the game chat with his helmet. I think that'd be hilarious. But hey, Zeke, do what you gotta do, man. Whatever works. It's just such a funny picture seeing the helmet on and he's in the gaming chair rather than on the field. So I thought that was hilarious. So go ahead, Zeke, and do whatever works. Hey, that's got to be. That's all it's got to be. I'm just trying to give. There's got to be more strategy to it. But yeah, he's probably just here missing football. Moving on to we were talking about Yanis and his the fake news of him coming to my Knicks. I'm not buying it. Wish this could zoom in, because I'm serious. Kevin Durant, you've hurt me, and I'm no longer believing in anybody coming to my New York Knicks. So Yanis, I don't care. But in cool news, we talked about his younger brother, who was a pretty standout high school athlete, and he was still trying to figure out what he was going to do next. Was he going to go he said he was going to go the NCAA route. He was either going to go overseas, and he just didn't know where he was going to play. But he finally made his decision. He's going to be playing for the UCAM Murica team. He's going to be getting some work in, and he's going to be playing overseas. And I feel like that's the best thing for him to get prepared for the next level, because I think he is going to be a nice. I don't know if he's going to necessarily be Yanis good, but he's going to be a good player. So I'm glad to see that he is going that route, because a lot of the training staffs and a lot of the workouts, especially for a program like that, is going to help him out a lot to tap into that game. And Yanis is happy about it too. As you can see, he posted this picture with a tweet saying, "Big move, Alex. I'm so happy and proud of you. Now let's get it," with the tough emojis. And he also added his new team. See Mama there signing the deal with them. And so it's a really cool moment for them. It's the team is in Spain. Sorry, I didn't mention that. So and I'm excited to see what's to become of that. I've been watching him closely because way back when Yanis was starting to, and way back when, like it was so long ago, a few years ago, when Yanis was starting to turn into the MVP form Yanis that we know now, there were people like that were talking about, because I have friends that are they're geeks that scout and stuff like that, and they're telling me about like his younger brother, check his younger brother out. So I've been watching him, and he's actually pretty solid. So I hope that he comes to the league, and then we got, you know, another set of brothers that are taking over the NBA that aren't last name Ball. And last but not least, here on Post Up, Lou Williams. I love everything about this. I remember we talked about we have been talking about the Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard, and players who are choosing not to go. But Lou Williams has been one of those players who has been understanding of those players who are deciding to not play, but also is very open to continuing and competing for a championship with the Los Angeles Clippers, but also making sure that everything goes according to plan as far as the players having their voices to continue speaking on the movement going on right now. He's not just going to go play basketball, focus on basketball, because he needs to make sure that all of the ducks are in a row so we can still continue the Black Lives Matter movement while we're out here watching this basketball. We've heard news that the English Premier League is going to have Black Lives Matter on their jersey. So Lou Williams has echoed that, saying that NBA should do the same thing. I think that's 100% factual. I think that all the jerseys should have a patch or whatever. There's all kinds of patches on the jersey anyway, looking like Boy Scouts. So you might as well throw that on there for sure. So it's something that's you're never not thinking about it. And he also, in this video I'm about to play for you, he also speaks on ideas about when in those 3-minute commercial breaks, that those commercials should be consistent of conversations that have to deal with the movement. And I think that that's a great idea. But you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Lou Williams. So if we can get that video of Lou Williams, please. Or I can pretend to be Lou Williams.
We're fighting for everything. We're fighting for, hey, listen, if we're going to go to Orlando and play, well, what do the 3-minute timeout commercials look like? Do we educate people during these timeouts now? Yeah. And so we're throwing all of these different ideas and different thoughts around that everybody has. So say, look, if we're going to go play, are you guys legitimately going to give us the platform that we're asking for?
Are you actually with us? Are you actually? It's extremely important.
And if the demands aren't met, we won't be going back.
We ain't going nowhere.
Simple. Now he goes on to say something else that I also want to highlight in this video, if we can, where he's talking about the players that were, speaking up for the players that are at the end of the bench that don't have the voice of a Lou Williams, the voice of a LeBron James, stuff like that, that have great ideas and great opinions. That is the reason why this is so powerful, to have a coalition like Dwight Howard and Kyrie Irving have been talking about. So he talks on that right here, continuing on in the same video.
About playing.
Hopefully.
This is a critical time, and again, everybody is trying to figure out the best way that they can maximize their voice. Because once we get to Orlando and you tell us, well, listen, you can speak out at the post-game press conference. Okay, the reality is the press only want to talk to 2 or 3 different guys.
Right.
So that mutes a lot of guys that have opinions that they can use in the real world.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for the 8th guy on a team, or the 10th guy on a bench that has an intelligent idea, that has intelligent things to say, but he doesn't have the platform that a Lou Williams or a Kawhi or any of these guys are going to have?
That's facts. And that's what we were talking about. I think the majority of this Kyrie Irving, Dwight Howard news is just, I think Jackie, who said it a few times, it's just like, it was an idea, but it just felt like there was no plan. It felt like, it was a good idea to put this group together to have, this conversation. But then it's like, all right, cool, you guys don't play. Then what? And to hear Lou Williams have this, like, this is what I wanted to hear. Like, there is a plan. There is, he spewed off several ideas in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a huge fan of that. And I want to actually start with you, Jackie, because you were, you even went as far as gave Kyrie Irving an L of the week over on our Weekend Zone. Go check it out if you haven't watched last week's Weekend Zone. So to hear Lou Williams preach on it like this and have a plan, what's your thoughts on that? Do you agree with the ideas he was having, like the commercial breaks and putting the patches on the shirts and having the guys? So how do you feel about that?
I mean, I agree 100%. And I think that some of the guys that have, a little bit of reluctancy to play, if they would have heard this plan on that conference call, then maybe they could have at least said, okay, yeah, if we are going to play, these are the demands we want met. Because like we said before, the NBA is not the NFL. So if you go to them with a list of 10 things, you're going to get 2 off top, just for sure. You probably will get more, especially if it's saying something like, this is how we want the timeouts to look. This is what we want our jersey to look like. We want the emblem on the floor. These are all very doable, especially right now in the social movement. But when you just say, hey, we want to go with the movement and sit out, that doesn't speak to a large part of the league. It speaks to some, but not all. So I think that this would have been a unifying thing if they had this on the conference call. Throwing out all these ideas would have unified both people who wanted to sit and both people who wanted to play. So it's unfortunate. I wish he was on that conference call. I think we need a redo on that conference call.
Yeah, 100%, because it just feels like this is all stuff that these guys that are planning to sit out for that reason could definitely be using and still end up playing and, moving forward. But, Britt, I want to come to you real quick before we move on. You heard the list of ideas that he wanted to present, patch on the jersey, commercial breaks. Do you feel like do you have personally any ideas that you think that they could add on or should add on? Do you feel like these are definitely a good step? What are you thinking as far as the plan that, Lou Williams, like I said, just went off on 1 minute when we had a whole conversation with Kyrie Irving. We didn't really hear any plans from him.
Well, first of all, he's a Clipper, so I just want to be like, that's my dog. That is my dog. No, but to be serious, I think those were all great ideas. I think probably doing something where it's maybe some kind of podcast that they do on some of their off time, because a lot of these guys actually personally have their own podcast, but maybe if the NBA kind of did one that players could do, and have those guys that are, 8th, 9th, 10th on the bench or whatever, come and do those kind of things to get their voices heard, because it is, that's what social media is for, and that's what podcasts and stuff like this is for, is so really anyone can have a platform, and anyone can actually talk. It doesn't have to be LeBron, and it doesn't have to, and really Lou will. Yes, he's the most popular sixth man, but he is still a sixth man. He's not a starter, So I feel like maybe utilizing stuff like other different kind of social platforms to get players to talk, because they will have time where there's going to be a lot of free time. And then I also wanted to encourage maybe some of the advertisements be dedicated to Black-owned businesses, because this is part of the movement too. We want to get a big issue in this, and for equality is getting some dollars in Black pockets, So I think that if they used some of that, because we all see the banners around the stadiums or the arenas or whatever. We see them on the court and stuff, and obviously a lot of these Black-owned businesses don't have the same money that the big corporations do. But if the NBA said, okay, we're actually going to do a lot, this percentage of whatever to go to Black-owned businesses that will showcase and stuff throughout the NBA, whether it's during, those little breaks that they have for commercials or whatever, or whether, because I know Target even does stuff now where they have some of their Black-owned products that they have, and they'll just do the whole commercial, oh, this is Cynthia, and she now has this company where she makes shampoo and conditioner that she started out of her garage, and blah blah blah. I know I've seen Target do that and stuff. So if the NBA kind of piggybacked on that and did stuff like that, just to showcase Black excellence, as well as what we need to do to make change for equality and Black Lives Matter movement.
100% agree. And in just this interview alone, like Jackie has been saying, you present at least 5, 6, 7, 10 ideas, the NBA is going to pick up on, a good, at least a nice quarter of them. And I feel like everything he said is definitely in the realms of the NBA. I feel like the commercial breaks can be controlled that way. I feel like you could definitely, at the very least, get a Black Lives Matter patch. I love that podcast idea. I think that's a great thing, because, there's going to still be content be talked about throughout the league while everyone's playing and stuff like that. I think that'd be a dope idea too. So all of these seem like things that can be accepted, so that they got to use their voices, and I think that we'll see some changes coming up. But before I go here on Post Up, you heard Devin talk about yesterday the the Equal Justice Initiative that we are partnered with here, the Fumble Squad is partnered with. It's an incredible nonprofit organization that provides legal representation to prisoners who may have been wrongfully convicted of crimes, poor prisoners without effective representation, and others who may have been denied a fair trial. Now, for the next few weeks, we'll be amplifying our voices here on the Fumble to share with you, some of the very many stories of wrongfully convicted athletes, activists, and people alike in an effort to shed some light on something that's happening in our country every day. Now, some of these you guys might already know. Most of them you might not. And today I actually want to start off with Julius Jones. And for some sports fans who probably know Julius Jones, I remember Julius Jones as the running back. It's not him. It is actually a young brother that was arrested back in 2002. He is currently on death row right now in Oklahoma. He's being held at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Like I said, he was arrested in 2002. And he was convicted of first-degree murder for the death of a 45-year-old man named Paul Howell. Howell was shot in the head on July 28th, 1999, while sitting in his car in his parents' driveway. The only eyewitness was his sister, Megan Toby. And on the crime scene, they had found two... what are they called? Two shell casings from the bullet, and the suspect, who was described to be a black male, wearing a white shirt and had a red bandana over his face. Days later, the person that they arrested was in fact Julius Jones, and he was only 19 years old at the time. And as I said, he has been put on death row, and as I don't want to say early, but just last year, just October in 2019, Jones finally filed a clemency report where he had said this, quote, "As God is my witness, I was not involved in any way in the crimes that led to Howell being shot and killed. I have spent the past 20 years on death row for a crime I did not commit, did not witness, and was not at." Now, since then, there was a Julius Jones coalition that was established by family, friends, and community organizers who are pursuing Julius's innocence. And we've also, the coalition has also seen support from people athletes, from the Oklahoma area who either, played out there or are from there, like Blake Griffin, Russell Westbrook, Trae Young, Buddy Hield, and even Baker Mayfield. Now, like I said, this was late October, and we are still months from when that coalition was formed. And throughout all the research, they're seeing tons of inconsistencies in the initial investigation. There's also been a ton of mishandled executions within Oklahoma itself. So they are putting up a good fight to hopefully eventually free Julius Jones for this crime that he is saying that he did not commit. And that is that's what's so powerful about this Equal Justice Initiative that we have right here. So if you guys want to donate, please do. The link is in the description below. Please educate yourself over on the website at egi.org. And like I said, anything that you guys can give is appreciated. $1, $2, it all counts. You guys see the goal is to your right on your screen. So please give whatever you can to help free someone like Julius Jones.
So thank you so much for that, Chris. We had an anonymous donation of $5. So thank you so much for that, nice. Whoever gave it to us. And now, Jackie, tell us what we're not gonna do. Yeah.
Are y'all sleeping on this? Like, she's getting better every time. I feel like, Chris, you need to formulate a remix or something, because she's coming for your job. All right, guys, so we're going to dive in right now to what we not going to do. Now, we all know that racism in soccer or football is really high. We've heard of the racial slurs, we've heard of the discrimination, and we've heard of people literally throwing bananas and calling people black players monkeys. So, but the league is standing up and they're doing their part. They're standing up for Black Lives Matter. Waterford captain Troy Deeney has a Black Lives Matter logo that he wears on his jersey. He's actually getting it trademarked because it's been misused, which is unfortunate. But then every Premier League player has turned out with a Black Lives Matter or a Black Lives Matter shirt in solidarity last week. The Premier League also has Black Lives Matter shirts worn in the first 12 games that they are raffling off on eBay to raise money for the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Foundation, and that actually helps reform in inner cities and especially young people, young and disadvantaged people. So they're definitely doing what they can, but the fan base, y'all, it is not coming along quietly. But what I would never do is spend an absorbent amount of time to be racist. Of course, I can't be racist, but still, I don't understand who people would do this. So take a look. If we have that, Leo, can we pull it up? Take a look at this image really quickly. I'm sure you've seen this floating around on social media. So this is what a White Lives Matter, but what you can't see is it's being pulled by a plane. So this is one of those like advertisement banners that you see going around planes or stadiums and whatnot. So I had to actually look this up because I wanted to find out just how racist you have to be. So like I said, this was a promotional plane that was flown over Manchester City Stadium. It appeared shortly after both teams took a knee in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, planes in that, there's only 2 that I found that are even remotely close to this stadium. And the cheapest one you can get is $500 an hour. It's a 3-hour minimum. It's 3 to 5 hour minimum, depending on what it is. So at the very low end, this costs $1,500. At the high end, it costs $3,000 to fly this message. A little crazy for me on that one. I'm just not trying to spend that kind of money. But I have a ton of questions on this one. Because they're investigating this. Obviously, the team has apologized about it. But since there's only 2 in the area, I don't know how hard it is to figure out who did this. It seems like it would be relatively easy. Number 2, the pilot. Like when he saw what it was, did he just say, "Okay, I'll fly that"? I don't really understand why this happened. But defender Ben Mee, he told reporters that the players heard rumblings that this was a thing. So that brings up more questions for me, because by the time it gets down to the players, how many people did this have to go through to know this happened? But he said, "We literally heard as we were coming out, we heard some whispers was going to happen. The club tried to stop it, but I've heard it's a small number of people who've arranged this." So again, by the time it gets down to the players, I just feel like maybe they could have intercepted it. But then the manager also said that he didn't know. He just had to look up because he heard the plane and he heard the rumblings in the stadium, and that's when he saw it. He said he was shocked and surprised and obviously very apologetic. So I don't know. They issued this apology. They said, "We apologize universally to the Premier League, to Manchester City, and to all those helping promote Black Lives Matter." I don't really have a question on this because we know how some of these racist people have kind of really stepped up their racism in order to kind of combat the Black Lives Matter movement. But I still am proud of the Premier League for fighting against it and staying strong in the midst of that. So it's going to be a long fight, though. I think NASCAR has a similar fight. It's going to be a very long fight, but hopefully slowly these types of things will dwindle at the very least. Now you know where that advertising plane thing is, and just make sure somebody's there every time you play from now on. But let's move on to a question I've had. If a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Because that's kind of what I feel like we need to ask the 49ers, because the team posted this photo to their IG page. It says it's a Black Lives Matter flag, California flag, and then the American flag. And then I don't know if you can see it. So they captioned it, "Indivisible with liberty and justice for all, hashtag Black Lives Matter." When I first saw this, I legit thought it said invisible, because that's kind of what the 49ers are to me in this whole situation. But I think it's just because I still kind of have a little animosity for them. They are the organization that spearheaded blackballing Colin Kaepernick, who was literally trying to tell you that Black Lives Matter. So it's kind of funny to me. They also had to provide proof, because from this you can't really tell. So if you swipe, then the next photo you will see is they had to make sure that you knew it was Levi Stadium. So yeah, I guess they want some credit for that. But if you add this to the CEO Jack York and his statement last month about the situation going on in our country. He said, before we are able to realize impactful change, we must first have courage and compassion as human beings to come together and acknowledge the problem. Black men, women, children, and other oppressed minorities to continue to be systemically discriminated against. So I get it, but people are saying, yeah, they put their money where their mouth is. They're actually showing that they've changed. I'm going to still stand by what I've said. They have not. This is a display because of what's going on in the world around. I'm sticking by that until I actually see something meaningful from them. I'm not giving them credit on a flag. I get it. It's a gesture that is going to inspire some kind of feeling in people, but it's not enough for me. So I'm going to go to you, Chris, on this one. Considering all that we know about the 49ers and their relationship with Colin Kaepernick, are you happy to see this flag waving outside of their stadium and it doesn't mean anything to you?
I really wish I was able to come here and disagree with you, but no. Look, my feelings are the exact same. It's going to take a lot, if not anything, for me to even feel like the 49ers remotely actually mean what they're saying when it comes to this issue, because like you said, they were in the wrong way. They were the pioneers of what happened to Colin Kaepernick when they decided to have Blaine Gabbert become their starting quarterback over Colin Kaepernick, and then not defend their quarterback with everything that he was saying, and for a simple gesture. So yeah, this to me it's all going to be weak. All of it's going to be weak. All of their gestures, their I don't care, their statements, whatever it may be, I'm not buying it. They're all trying to save face, and it's not going to come from me. I'm not going to be forgiven. I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to ask this a random question because it just popped into my head. So if Washington, who still has a racist name, suddenly flies a Black Lives Matter flag outside of their stadium, what would be your reaction? You already hire me all the time. I promise you are.
Just shut it all down. Like it'd be if those are the two teams that are like, it's just like, where are we? What is going on? The NFL is just flipping back. No, I'm not. No, I hate it. I hate it. That's a conversation that I'm still upset that they haven't even tried to get back to. Like, you know what? Maybe this is the time that we should address this kind of thing. Like, no, if they did it, they, if not, are still more guilty than the Niners. Even though what the Niners did to Cap, they still got the name that they got. So no.
Mm-hmm. All right. Chris for once agrees with me, you guys. Write this down, screenshot it. I don't know if it's going to happen again. All right, but right now it's that time, guys. So get ready, because it is time for Brit's Takes.
Brit's Take.
All right, guys, I'm going to be as quick as I can here because I have a lot of thoughts on this one, because my boy Dak Prescott signed a 1-year franchise tag worth $31.4 million. So many questions have been going on since then. Did he cave? Is it wrong that he did that? Should he have waited? Blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to hold off on feeling like he caved. I don't think he caved just yet. Obviously, I said earlier, because I've been talking about this, we've been following this ever since March, and then obviously the Cowboys got the upper hand when they decided to sign Andy Dalton, and that was like a big thing that it's like, great, the momentum's shifting, it's going to the Cowboys now. Like, Dak, you had like a decent season to where you were the number one offense in the league, but the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs last season. So you kind of lost there, and then they get Andy Dalton. So they're like, oh, well, if you don't want to play Dak, well, somebody else that could come in there. So I was definitely, all the momentum was on the Cowboys, and I was really nervous that, a deal wasn't going to get done. And I still believe there's a possibility that a deal is going to get done, because let's remember, like, Dak Prescott, the last 4 years, made $2.7 million total, not a year, total. That was his contract, because he was a 4th-round pick. He was actually the 3rd-string quarterback coming in, and then he just ends up and becomes our starting quarterback, literally like that. So he was never granted that big contract or any big deal. This is the first time he's been able to get any kind of money, right? So obviously he wants to make sure he does this right. At this point, this doesn't really mean anything, him signing this $31.4 million franchise tag, because they still have until July 15th to both come to a decision on a long-term contract. All this does right now is lets Mike McCarthy know, you know what? I am here. I am going to training camp. I will be there and I will show up, because technically Dak Prescott wouldn't have lost any money at all if he decided to not attend training camp and then just sign his deal like a couple days before the game started. Like, he could have set this whole thing out and it would have not cost him one single penny, because that's how franchise tags work. Like, you either get all of your money or you get none of your money. And the biggest problem with the franchise tag for the Dallas Cowboys is that is all on your salary cap. Like, usually how contracts work, you can split it up and you can say, oh, some of this is going to be bonus money. It's not going to go against your cap. You can spread it out differently to where, like, it benefits you to give them a bigger chunk of the money later on because you're paying more guys right now. But overall, you're guaranteed whatever percentage of money, right? Well, when you put somebody on a franchise tag, you gotta, all that money is against your cap that exact season, which is why we very, very rarely see quarterbacks get put on franchise tags, because, again, like I just said, it's a $31.4 million franchise tag. If they end up putting him on a franchise tag next year, it'll be $37 million because of the new CBA. So they do not want to do that. They want to sign Dak. The problem is Dak wants a 4-year deal. They want a 5-year deal. I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm very confident this is going to happen, because the Cowboys, because we're paying several guys in the ranks of 20 plus million a year right now, we are doing that because we want to win right now. So the Cowboys are not in any position in the next half decade to even be one of the bottom tier teams to get a top draft pick as a quarterback in the next couple years. So, and we all know a lot of big quarterbacks in this offseason signed either extensions or new deals with people. Obviously, we know Cam Newton's still available, but he's an older guy. So I wouldn't feel like the Cowboys would put all their eggs in that basket. Dak Prescott is 25 years old right now. He wants to do a 4-year deal because he wants his next contract to happen when he's 30. Because as soon as you get over that 30-year mark, it can be a difference in your pay. They don't believe in you as much. They don't whatever. He wants to get several more big contracts like as a free agent or whatever, which is why he wants this 4-year deal. He wants to sign his next deal when he turns 30, not 31, going on 32 or whatever the case. He wants to be 30 years old, which is why he wants this 4-year deal so bad. I kind of think that, like, because I know how Jerry Jones works. Jerry Jones obviously is one of the only owners that ever actually played football at a collegiate level. And he was actually a very good college football player, but he is ultimately like a businessman. And Jerry Jones is like all about, like, I need you to sign something. I need to know that good faith is there. And by Dak Prescott signing this and giving that moment to, like, okay, I'm going to sign this, because all this signing does now, instead of signing on July 15th, is letting the team know I will be there during training camp. I will be there right when training camp starts. And then they have from now till July 15th to figure out the deal. I think it'll get done. I don't know if it's going to get done how Dak wants it to get done, but I think he will be close to $36-37 million on this contract, because if they end up franchise tagging him next year too, that's going to be $37 franchise tag. And already there's so much going against this year by having him be a franchise tag with that $31.4 million on top of paying. Amari Cooper just got paid. DeMarcus just got paid. Freaking Zeke recently got paid. So you have like a bunch of guys that you just paid big contracts to, and our center just retired, you know? So there's like a lot going on with the offense, and I don't think that it's a situation where you bring somebody else in. They're going to settle on a deal with Dak. I don't think anyone should get too crazy about this franchise signing right now, because we still have till July 15th for us to get a solid deal. Obviously, I'm going to keep you guys very well aware of what's happening. There's going to be another big deal that's going to happen in the next couple weeks, and it will be his long-term deal. And I'll probably do another book because this has been a long time waiting. We've literally been talking about this and wondering what's going to happen with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott for some time now. And I think this was a good faith move and nothing more than that. So everybody that's freaking out that Dak, sold out or Dak gave in or whatever to the Cowboys, I would pump my brakes a little bit on that, because I think he'll end up getting what he wants at the end of the deal. And that's it for Brit's take. I would ask a question, but we're already over on time. So again, sorry.
Brit, are you sure that the next big deal for the Cowboys won't be Jamal Adams?
No, and that's in Jamal Adams, being a safety, that's somebody that you actually can franchise. If you franchise tag a safety, that's around a $15-14 million thing against your cap versus a $30+ million thing against your cap. So, and Jamal's still on a contract. He still has 2 years left to play, and he's owed $13 million. So they don't have to pay him very much money if they get him. But
just trying to catch you off guard.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Well, that is it for our show today. We're going to be back again at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow as usual. Subscribe, tap the bell, leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget that every super chat you give us, every donation goes to the Equal Justice Initiative. We're so excited to be partnering with this amazing company or this organization. You guys wash your hands, stay safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye, guys.
Ooh, yeah. Almost forgot.
Good job.